In 2025, something big happened at XX added a nationality display feature, and as you can see, it caused a huge confusion. It was because acts of certain countries trying to manipulate public opinion in other specific countries were discovered. This is called hybrid warfare. Today, let's take a proper look at this. Let's get right into it. On November 25, 2025, X introduced Nationality display to help verify content authenticity. When you signed up with an IP from country A, but mostly used one from country B, your nationality would show as country B. That's how the display worked. Using a VPN can hide your country of residence, but a shield icon with an exclamation mark will show on your profile, indicating VPN use. This sparked major controversy as many fake political accounts were found at once. For example, an account backing Scottish independence was actually run from Iran. The Rapid Support Forces political department account in the Sudanese civil war was run from the United Arab Emirates. Some cases are just trolling, but these examples clearly tried to promote political opinions. This is a very serious problem because it means public opinion is being manipulated. In fact, there are countries that do this systematically at the national level, namely China and Russia. China and Russia are among the countries that manipulate public opinion as if it's an everyday thing. There are now many papers on China and Russia's hybrid warfare, but I think we should first define what hybrid warfare means. War, under international law, typically involves military force between countries, but this definition is gradually evolving. Now, attacks on target countries combine non-military tactics like transnational cybercrime, cyber attacks, opinion manipulation, political moves, and economic sanctions with traditional military force. This is called hybrid warfare. At the 2025 World New Security Forum hosted by the Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it was a main agenda highlighting its serious threat. In 2025, it was stated that hybrid warfare can exploit a nation's vulnerabilities during peacetime, undermining national security. This shows how dangerous hybrid warfare is. In particular, cognitive warfare is something we must address because cognitive warfare is a way to destabilize a country from within without using guns or missiles. The core of cognitive warfare is very clear. It's about altering how people, the public, military, and political leaders in rival countries think and perceive the world. For example, consider the Republic of Korea. Some forces continuously instill the image that the Republic of Korea is incompetent, corrupt, internationally isolated, and a hopeless society internally. It doesn't matter if this message is true. What matters is if that idea sticks in people's minds. When this occurs, society cracks, distrust rises, and conflicts between groups, politics, ideologies, and generations intensify. Society focuses its energy on internal conflicts instead of external issues, causing national costs to rise sharply. This is not just about economic growth or welfare, it's a matter of national survival. This is exactly why cognitive warfare is so frightening, because you can make your opponent collapse on their own without physically destroying them. One of the countries that skillfully utilizes this kind of cognitive warfare is Jungkook. Jungkook has long invested heavily in information and psychological warfare, modernizing them into cognitive warfare. Even more alarming is its cost effectiveness. Conventional military power needs big budgets and time, but cognitive warfare can cause more harm for less cost. AI technology has made this even more serious. AI bots now operate on the internet and social media, acting like real people, shaping public opinion, and creating an environment where certain views can appear to be the voice of the majority. Manipulating public opinion is now faster, cheaper, and more damaging than before. The issue is that people don't see the enemy as the enemy. People unknowingly react to false information and manipulation, leading to growing societal conflicts. As a result, the country can't unite and wastes energy on internal disputes, a problem especially common in democracies. Because the system values freedom of expression and thought, it is hard to preemptively block false or manipulated information in cognitive warfare. In China or North Korea, the state can instantly block information and shut down channels that could allow outside influence on public opinion. In democratic countries like Korea or Japan, such methods are rarely allowed. Law, institutions, and freedom can sometimes create gaps instead of acting as shields. Cognitive warfare mainly targets democracies, where its impact is strongest. In the end, cognitive warfare is not an invisible war, but a war that is already underway, and we need to clearly recognize that the internet and social media spaces we encounter every day are right at the center of that battlefield. And not only that, but there are also many cases where spies are directly sent to carry out sabotage or covert operations. For example, after the war in Ukraine, Russia has conducted operations across Europe, such as arson at defense firms, assassinations of industry leaders, train derailments, infrastructure attacks, and other sabotage. Recently, they have flown drones non-stop, sparking conflicts between Western and Eastern Europe. Russia's sabotage operations use local gangs, criminals, immigrants, and disaffected European youth as agents instead of Russians themselves. So there are situations where people don't even realize that Russia is behind it, and European society is becoming even more divided. To give you a more detailed example right now, in Germany's 2025 election, Russia used a complex hybrid strategy to boost Alternative for Germany, which opposes aid to Ukraine. Russia used both financial incentives and threats to organize protests among Afghan immigrants in Germany. These protests were not just simple gatherings, but were deliberately organized to take place at specific locations and times, and were presented as if they were spontaneous civic movements through social media and local news outlets. Russia promoted anti-government graffiti on major German buildings, visually amplifying social discontent. This increased tension and distrust, sharply dividing political opinions. Voters unconsciously considered social anxieties and conflicts when voting, increasing support for the Alternative for Germany's anti-Ukraine policies. Since Russia's intervention was hidden, most Germans got caught up in social conflicts without knowing they were being manipulated, which ultimately affected the general election results. This method shows the typical characteristics of hybrid warfare. It's not just simple manipulation of public opinion, but a complex operation that strategically uses local social discontent and conflicts to achieve political goals, making it very sophisticated and threatening. Also, I think it would be good to talk about China as well. China is a country that engages in a lot of espionage activities. There have been numerous cases where they were caught conducting espionage against Korea, haven't there? But what's interesting is that when you look at these Chinese people who were caught, they're not professionally trained spies. They're just ordinary citizens. But those people go around filming Air Force bases and even use drones to record the National Intelligence Service building and things like that. The reason for this is China's National Intelligence Law Articles 7 and 14 require all organizations and citizens to support and help government intelligence efforts and keep related secrets. But what's interesting is that if you refuse the government's request for intelligence cooperation, you get punished in China. So it's really difficult for an individual Chinese person to refuse such demands from the government. In effect, the state is institutionally guaranteeing or even forcing information gathering activities by all Chinese people living abroad. In hybrid warfare, economic threats grow stronger when paired with information manipulation. They realize that military force or cyber attacks alone can't fully control or destabilize a target, so they weaponize the economy. For example, if you look at Russia, their strategy of using the European energy supply network for pressure is a very typical case. Russia has shaken the economic and political decisions of European countries that are highly dependent on energy by restricting or adjusting the supply of natural gas and oil at certain times. This process causes price swings, anxiety, and increases social and political unrest in affected countries. China also uses a similar approach by leveraging rare earth elements and advanced industry supply chains. If rare earth elements cannot be secured, the entire industry is delayed, and companies and governments are inevitably forced to readjust their strategic decisions. In this process, countries that are highly dependent on resources are effectively pressured, and internally, a decline in industrial competitiveness and social unrest occur together. Combining AI-driven opinion manipulation with this causes both economic and psychological pressure, doubling the harm. If news breaks about a semiconductor shortage in a country, social media fills with hashtags and criticism of companies or the government, creating anxiety among the public and leaders. From the attacker's perspective, it's a structure that allows them to maximize social costs without causing any actual physical damage. Combining public opinion manipulation and economic pressure is so effective that it's become a common strategy. In hybrid warfare, economic attacks go beyond trade sanctions or tariffs, strategically disrupting key industries, energy, and financial systems while also manipulating public opinion and psychology. When this occurs, the target country faces both external pressure and internal chaos, making response difficult. Economic decisions in a country often cause public anxiety and political conflict, creating opportunities for those conducting hybrid warfare to achieve maximum effect at minimal cost. We must be cautious about hybrid warfare. What are your thoughts? Share in the comments. That's the end of the video. Thanks.